Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am beyond thrilled today. We are joined by a man who literally changed the way we see colour. For those who may somehow not know who you are, who are you?
Hello, Calvin. I am Henri Matisse, a painter, sculptor, and someone who spent my entire life trying to capture the sheer vibration of light and color on canvas. I just wanted to bring a little harmony to the world.
We definitely need that harmony. Let's go back to the very beginning. When and where were you born?
I was born on the very last day of the year, December 31st, 1869, in a tiny place called Le Château-Comblessy in northern France. A chilly start to a very colorful life.
And what was your given name at birth?
It was Henri-Émile Benoit Matisse.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
Not a grand one, I'm afraid. It was quite traditional for the time. My parents were simple people. They ran a flour and grain business, so they gave me strong, traditional names.
What was your hometown like growing up?
It was a textile town, Bolhan-en-Vermandois, where I actually grew up. It was gray and industrial, which is quite ironic considering how much I obsessed over bright colors later. But the weavers there produced beautiful silks, and I think seeing those intricate patterns and rich dyes every day stayed in my subconscious.
What was your family life like?
My father was quite strict. He was a practical man who wanted me to have a real career. My mother, though, she was the one who sold the painted china and handled the bright seeds and grains. She was my first connection to art.
What kind of kid were you?
I was a bit of a delicate child, honestly. I wasn't the most robust or athletic. I was quiet, observant, and perhaps a bit studious because I wanted to please my father.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
Failing to meet expectations. I spent a long time trying to be the person my family wanted me to be rather than the person I actually was.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
I didn't dream of being an artist. I thought I would be a lawyer. I even went to Paris to study law and worked as a legal clerk. I was very good at filing papers.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
I enjoyed the structure of learning, but honestly, my heart wasn't truly in it until I found a paintbrush.
So what was your first job?
I was a clerk in a law office. I spent my days surrounded by dusty ledgers and legal jargon. It was very beige.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
It happened when I was 20. I had an attack of appendicitis and had to stay in bed for a long time. My mother brought me a box of paints to help pass the time. The moment I started, I felt a sort of paradise I had never known. I realized then that my life as a lawyer was over.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Buying that first set of paints. It felt like a hobby at first, but it was actually the door to my entire future.
What was your biggest break?
It was likely the 1905 Salon d'Automne. That was when I exhibited with some friends, and a critic called us fauves, or wild beasts, because our colors were so bright and shocking. It started a revolution.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
Poverty, Calvin. Absolute poverty. There were times when my wife, Amelie, had to run a hat shop just to keep us fed while I painted things that nobody wanted to buy yet.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Never. Once I found art, it was like breathing. You don't quit breathing just because the air is a little thin.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
I rose early and worked with discipline. People think artists just wait for a muse, but I worked like a laborer. I also loved to play the violin. It helped me understand the rhythm and intervals that I later put into my paintings.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I suppose I would have remained a very unhappy, very bored lawyer in a small French town.
What was your life like before fame?
It was a struggle, but it was also a time of great discovery. I was traveling, looking at the light in Corsica and Morocco, and realizing that color could be used to express emotion rather than just reality.
How did relationships change after success?
It brought pressure. When you are the leader of a movement like Fauvism, People expect you to always be revolutionary. It can be exhausting.
Did fame bring happiness?
The fame didn't, but the freedom to paint whatever I wanted did. That is the true luxury.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
The rivalries and the public scrutiny. People could be very cruel about my work, calling it unskilled or monstrous, just because they didn't understand the use of color.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
People thought I was a wild man because of my wild colors. In reality, I was very middle class, wore spectacles, and lived a very orderly, quiet life. I was a wild beast only on the canvas.
What was your darkest moment?
During the World Wars, it was a very difficult time for France, and seeing the world in such pain made it hard to maintain the joy I wanted to put into my art.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
That my art was, quote, easy. I worked tirelessly to make a painting look simple. To make a single line look effortless takes years of practice.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how did you handle it?
In the early 1940s, I became very ill and had to undergo major surgery. I was confined to a wheelchair or my bed. I thought my career was over because I couldn't stand to paint at an easel anymore. But instead of giving up, I started painting with scissors, cutting shapes out of brightly colored paper. It was a whole new world.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My wife, Amelie, for her incredible support, and artists like Paul Cézanne. I once said Cézanne was the god of painting.
What was life like in your final years?
I lived in Nice, in the south of France. Even though I was physically limited, I was surrounded by color. I designed the Chapelle du Rosaire de Vence, the stained glass, the vestments, everything. It was my masterpiece of light.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was perfecting my paper cutouts. I was fascinated by how I could create a whole environment just by pinning paper to the walls.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away on November 3rd, 1954, in Nice.
What happened?
It was a heart attack. I was 84 years old and had lived a very full, vivid life.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I was obsessed with birds. At one point, I had dozens of exotic birds in cages in my studio. I loved their songs and their bright feathers.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
That I didn't actually know how to draw. It used to make me laugh because I spent years in classical training. I chose to simplify, but the skill was always there.
What was your most unique habit?
I would often draw on the ceiling with a piece of charcoal attached to a long bamboo stick while I was lying in bed. I wouldn't let anything stop me from creating.
What was your favorite food?
I enjoyed simple, fresh Mediterranean food. Lots of fruits and vegetables that looked as good as they tasted.
What was your favorite book?
I loved poetry, particularly the works of Charles Baudelaire and Stéphane Mallarmé. I actually illustrated editions of their poems.
Did you have any known rivalries?
Oh, Pablo Picasso. We were like the North Pole and the South Pole. We were very different, but we had a deep respect for each other. We used to trade paintings just to study what the other was doing.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
I remember once traveling to Tahiti just to see the light. I didn't paint much there, I just soaked it in. People thought I was crazy to go so far just to look at the water and the sky, but that light stayed with me for 20 years.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Don't look for success. Look for joy. If you find what makes you feel like you are in paradise, the rest will follow. And never be afraid of a little wild color.
Henri, do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before signing off?
Only that I hope everyone takes a moment today to look at the world around them. Really look at it. See the blue in the shadows and the gold in the light. Life is a masterpiece if you choose to see it that way. Thank you so much for having me, Calvin. It was a delight to talk about the colors again.
And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.